Hi everyone, it's Alia or Cake Legend and welcome to our second cake pop tutorial. First we had Disney princesses and now we're going to be making Super Mario themed cake pops. These were so adorable and so fun to make, so I hope you all enjoy. To start, we're going to need to make our cake pop dough. And if you already know how to make cake pop dough, you can easily skip over this part of the video, but if you don't know, basically you're gonna take some cake and crumble it up into a bowl. I was just using this scrap cake that I had left over from another cake project. So it's a great way to eliminate waste, and then you're gonna add something that gives moisture to this dough. It can be like ganache or some kind of filling, but most people use buttercream. My buttercream, as you can see, is this weird black-gray color, and that's because, again, it was left over from another cake project, but it didn't really matter because it's going into chocolate cake, so no one's gonna see the color anyways. Be careful not to add too much because you don't want your cake pop dough to be too soft. You just want it soft enough that it can hold shape. Here's mine all finished and ready to go, so I grabbed an ice cream scoop so that all my portions were equal in size, and I started rolling my cake balls. Well, actually, not all of them were cake balls. Some of them were little mushrooms, as you saw, the iconic red and green ones from the games. And to make those, I started by making a cake ball, but then I kind of like rolled out one side so it was a little bit longer, and then like squished it back down to get the mushroom shape. I don't know if those are good instructions, but I don't know how else to describe it except that I just tried my best to shape it into a mushroom shape. My dough was a little bit soft, so they do look a little misshapen and like kind of warped, but after I chilled them, I was able to refine the shape and get them a little closer to what I was aiming for. For the other two designs, we only need regular round cake balls, which are very simple, just literally roll a sphere of cake. And I repeated that with the rest of the cake pop dough until it was all used up and we had all of our cake balls ready to be chilled. I put mine in the freezer overnight. I always recommend freezing them for one night at least. And then I put them in the fridge the next day, like half an hour before I'm gonna start dipping them. And I do that just to help avoid cracking. So now, the next day, here I have all my candy melts. I didn't use all of these for the Mario cake pops though. Some of those were for the princess cake pops. For the Mario ones, I just needed red, green, black, and white candy melts. Starting with the red and green, as you can see, I put them into microwave safe bowls and melted them down, and then I added some vegetable oil to get them to this runny consistency. As you can see, the colors are a little pale, so I grabbed those candy melt colors, which are oil-based instead of water-based, and I added in some more color to get them a little more vibrant. Now it's time to dip the cake pops, so I grabbed them from the fridge and I stuck the lollipop sticks into them, and then I dipped them straight into that candy melt, shook off all the excess, wiped the bottom, and then put them aside. Same thing with the round cake pops. The red ones were gonna be little like Mario shirts with the blue overalls, which we're gonna add later. Now we're repeating the same process with the green candy melt. We're gonna dip the mushrooms and then we're gonna dip some of the round cake balls. Next, I melted some white candy melt and I grabbed those mushroom cake pops, which were all hardened by now, and I just dipped the bottom bases of them to create like the bottom part of the mushroom. I forget what it's called in this very moment, but like the stem. I did that for all of my red ones and all my green ones so that they were all matching, and then I set them aside. After that, I melted down some blue candy melt so I could do the same thing to the round red and green cake pops that we just dipped. These are to create like the overalls on the front. I only dipped them halfway to be the overalls on these little Mario and Luigi cake pops. I melted down some more blue candy melt and put it into a piping bag. This time I didn't add oil because I didn't want it to be too runny, and that's because I'm using this to pipe little lines onto each Mario and Luigi cake pop to be like the little straps on the overalls. You know what I mean? And they were already looking really, really cute. For the last Mario themed design, I melted down some black candy melt and dipped some more of our round cake balls. These are going to be the little Bomom characters. The dipping process is the same as before, just dip your cake pop in, shake off the excess candy melt, give the bottom a little wipe on the edge of the bowl, and then set it aside. Now it's time to add more details, so I mixed up some royal icing, which is just egg white and sugar basically. I grabbed a piping bag and a Wilton No. 2 piping tip, which is just a small round piping tip, and I used the royal icing to start creating the details on the mushrooms. The little spots that go around the sides, and I added one on top because the cake pop stick was kind of cracking the top a little bit. So I just wanted to cover that up. Then I repeated the same thing for the green mushrooms. Now using the same icing and the same piping tip, I drew little eyes onto all of my black cake pops for the little Bomoms. After this, I was done with the white royal icing, so I dyed it yellow, and using the same piping tip, I piped little buttons onto the overall straps for the Mario and Luigi cake pops. And then once those were done, I dyed the royal icing again so that it was black and I could draw the eyes on the little mushroom cake pops. Now, the last step is to create the fondant decoration to finish the little Bomoms. And I'm so sorry that this camera angle is not the best, but I'm gonna try to explain what I'm doing the best I can. First, I took some orange fondant to create the feet. I made these big teardrop shapes, and I flattened the ends of them where the cake pop was going to sit. When it was time to attach them to the cake pops, I would pipe a little bit of royal icing on the ends and place them how I wanted them to sit, and then I would just squish the cake pop down on top. The royal icing really helps it stick right away. Next, I rolled out some white fondant into this really thin snake and sliced it up to create these little fuses. Apparently they're called that, but to me they look like candle wicks. And then I did the same thing for some blue fondant, except this one was a little bit thicker so that I could wrap it around the cake pop stick on top. And again, I just used more royal icing to stick everything together. I used some yellow fondant to create the windy part on the back of the Bomoms. I think they're called a crank, I don't know. But basically I took my yellow fondant and I flattened it out, and I used my X-Acto blade to cut out like a little B shape. Like it kind of looks like the letter B, but it's really, really tiny. And then I grabbed a really small round piping tip. I think it was a Wilton #1, and I used that to cut out the little circles. Again, I used royal icing to glue them to the back of the cake pops, and then that was it. These were all done. I was really happy with how these turned out, especially the little bombs. They're definitely the best Mario cake pops I've ever made. Let's all ignore the fact that these are the only Mario cake pops I ever made, but I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure you leave a like if you did, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!